A cool dusk settled over a busy street in the early months of 2003, when two companions, seeking the latest trends in health and wellness, experimented with a newly released supplement that promised remarkable benefits. They were intrigued by popular claims of easy methods that offered unique ways to supercharge vitality, and their shared curiosity outweighed caution that evening. One of them held the small container in hand, marveling at the vibrant label while reflecting on all the viral hacks and best practices they had recently read about. With the tug of excitement building, they both decided to ingest the capsules together, hoping for a night of renewed energy. Unbeknownst to them, this brand new formula was not as safe as the advertisements had implied. In an unsettling twist, the supplement turned toxic in both of their bodies, launching a sequence of unexpected reactions soon after consumption. Instead of feeling refreshed, they were overwhelmed by dizziness, rising nausea, and an unnerving sense of panic. With hearts pounding, they rushed to find a quick fix. They agreed to step inside a familiar dining place, hoping that food might stave off the toxins. As soon as they crossed the threshold, the immediate aftermath of that decision became unforgettable. The first friend stumbled into the main room and collapsed onto a dining table. In a heartbeat, the restaurant's manager sounded the alarm by dialing emergency services, urging them to come as soon as possible. The friend was whisked away by ambulance, admitted to a local hospital, and was discharged the following day with no lingering issues. Meanwhile, the other individual, unaware of the deeper crisis taking shape, hurried into the secluded single-use restroom and locked the door. At that moment, life took a drastic turn, pushing them to the threshold of human existence. Once inside, the second companion's strength faded rapidly. With the world spinning in a blur, they lost balance, toppling to the tiled floor. Lying on their back, waves of intense nausea took over, and they began to aspirate, leading to suffocation. Time seemed to freeze. An all-consuming darkness enveloped their consciousness, but instead of vanishing altogether, an overwhelming surge of perception came forth. It felt like slipping into a pool of electric sensations, an otherworldly realm where new awareness unfolded beyond any logic known to them on Earth. Suddenly, the person began observing a scene from a vantage point far above the physical body. It appeared as if they were viewing a play on stage, with themselves as the distant spectator. This baffling experience brought forth a silent revelation. They had stepped beyond typical senses and discovered a perspective that encompassed everything in the small restaurant. At first, they did not recognize the lifeless figure on the floor as their own. It seemed just another body in the room, and they watched with wide-eyed wonder at the blur of frantic movement on the other side of that restroom door. However, the out-of-body vantage point included an uncanny ability to sense every thought and emotion in the entire building. One wave of empathy allowed them to feel the restaurant manager's concern over the man who had just been taken to the hospital moments ago. Another wave caught fleeting customer anxieties, quiet wishes, and internal remarks as they absorbed the unusual tension in the air. Even the cook in the back echoed with a mixture of stress, confusion, and curiosity. It was as if the observer was attuned to a step-by-step broadcast of the restaurant's collective mental chatter. In the midst of this heightened awareness, one patron repeatedly attempted to open the locked restroom door without success. After multiple tries, concern grew louder in the guest's mind. What if someone was hurt inside? The manager was alerted again to the locked door. He approached carefully, knocking. Silence. Sensing something terribly wrong, he opened it with staff keys. There, he found the motionless body. Immediately, calls went out once more to the emergency department. A second set of medical responders arrived, only to discover what they believed was a deceased person. The body was declared lifeless, cold to the touch, and loaded into a heavy-duty zippered bag on a gurney. Throughout this ordeal, the observer was still in disbelief that the unresponsive figure was their own body. It simply did not register that they were simultaneously inside and outside of that physical form. Soon, the ambulance drove away from the scene, heading to a medical examiner's office. Fear and awe mingled in the observer's consciousness, which hovered close by, as though tethered to the body in a way that defied explanation. The vehicle merged into a busy street, lights flashing, siren wailing, forging its route toward the morgue. Just as the ambulance hit the main road, a mysterious glow emerged around one of the medics who was new on the job. He was young in his first week, sitting in the back with the zipped bag that supposedly contained a corpse. Remarkably, a brilliant luminescence gathered at his heart. From the observer's perspective, that radiance was as enthralling as it was impossible. In a flash, something akin to a powerful energy wave shot over the observer's left side, striking the young medic in his chest region. A commanding voice boomed, "This one is not gone," although the exact words were beyond the boundaries of typical physical hearing. Both the observer and the rookie medic were startled, scanning the environment, unsure of where the words had come from. The two other medics up front remained unaware, focused on driving. The golden aura around the rookie expanded, stretching from his heart up towards his head. For an instant, an even louder cosmic directive repeated, "This one is not gone." Realizing someone or something was compelling him to act, the young medic began to question standard procedures. In a moment of resolute courage, he unbuckled the gurney's straps, opened the body bag's zipper, and decided to search for a heartbeat with trembling hands. He felt no immediate signs of life in the chest or neck, so he resorted to making physical contact with leg bone, a method occasionally used if superficial pulses can't be located. The moment his hand set upon the rigid limb, a jolt of raw energy sparked between him and the departed person's consciousness. Although intangible to any external observer, it was undeniably real to both the soul in that otherworldly viewpoint and the rookie medic, fueled by an inexplicable sense of mission. Taking this as a signal, the young man refused to yield, even though he had been taught that pronounced dead means final. Sometimes, a how-to approach to saving a life demands thinking outside the box, and the voice that guided him was far more persuasive than protocol. He rushed to bring out equipment typically reserved for living patients, including a device that can shock a heart back into a functional rhythm. With quick, determined moves, he set up the oxygen apparatus, placed defibrillator pads, and prepared the step-by-step process of resuscitation. It felt like a tutorial in faith, an unorthodox demonstration of best practices that medical training might overlook. As soon as the gleaming machine powered on, it emitted a piercing alarm that caught the attention of the other two medics up front. They turned around, their faces brimming with disbelief, and barked at the newcomer that he was flirting with disciplinary action. They argued it was unethical, illegal even, to try to manipulate a body that was officially declared dead. But the budding hero in the back refused to comply with their shouted orders. That unwavering conviction pushed him to deliver the first shock. The body did not register any heartbeat, but he persisted. On the second shock, the monitor indicated a solitary flickering contraction before returning to the flat line. Despite the minimal response, that single heartbeat might as well have been thunder to the medic who believed in the voice. It was enough proof that the fight should continue. Summoning more courage, he administered the third round of shocks, and this time secured a faint yet undeniable heartbeat. At that point, the observer floating in unseen territory began to realize that they weren't merely watching a random drama unfold. This was their own rescue. With a feeble but sustainable pulse, the ambulance changed direction. They were astonishingly close to a hospital, just 1 block away, and the entire staff was alerted to the miraculous turn of events. Chaos ignited in the best possible way. A trauma team prepared to greet the ambulance, mobilizing an ultimate guide in critical care. From the defibrillator to the intravenous drips, each professional was ready to carry out top 10 strategies for emergency revival. Soon enough, the body was transferred from the ambulance's gurney to the hospital bed, where it convulsed in violent seizures, expelling fluids. Only in that moment did the reanimated individual realize the body was indeed their own. A deeply unsettling sense of oneness merged with the knowledge that they were simultaneously detecting the events from some intangible plane. After the medical team replaced the paramedic in applying advanced life support measures, the illusions of separation gradually dissolved. Flashing over her, D-lights reflected off the crisp white walls. Machines beeped in staccato rhythm, providing a glimmer of hope in an emergency room that often witnessed heartbreak. Now, let us step back, behind the scenes, and consider what came next in this saga. In environments where the medical community rallies to preserve life, a patient grapples with intangible frontiers. The individual eventually regained partial consciousness after drifting between worlds. Stop and imagine the swirl of confusion, relief, and awe that must have accompanied the realignment of body and soul. This event could be deemed a how-to demonstration for stretching the limits of conventional knowledge. It highlights the latent possibilities that surface when people trust their instincts, even under the weight of official constraints. It also reveals a kind of tutorial in unwavering faith, reminiscent of a dramatic production that underscores how sometimes protocol must bow to the urgency of intuitive action. The friend who left the restaurant earlier recovered rather easily, but the one who nearly perished was inexorably changed. Over time, that person recounted the experience, focusing on the moment they slipped out of physical form and became acutely aware of the entire setting T-more. Words alone could hardly capture the immensity of perceiving every mind in the immediate space, tuned like a receiver to the full spectrum of human emotion. How might one describe a sudden overload of empathy? Might be a question for those curious about the mysteries of near-death experiences. This recollection reads like a tutorial in bridging the physical and the metaphysical, a step-by-step revelation that can't be fully explained by normal science. While no direct step-by-step guide can replicate what happened, this was an unexpected scenario, not a carefully orchestrated how-to event. There are lessons that bubble to the surface. One might glean expert tips about staying prepared for emergencies, like verifying the safety of wellness products before consumption. Another insight might revolve around the power of faith or intuition. Sometimes, the best practices for saving a life involve trusting an unexplainable prompt. The paramedic story illuminates how even a rookie can become a hero when guided by a sense of purpose that transcends standard rules. Possibly, if more individuals followed earnest instincts in times of crisis, more lives might be spared. But for those enthralled by the afterlife aspect, this storyline also serves as an ultimate guide to the mysteries of consciousness. People often yearn for a behind-the-scenes account of what it feels like to step out of one's own body, observe everything from a vantage above, and hear a universal hush of countless thoughts. Some might call it a tutorial in cosmic awareness. Others might label it a trending now phenomenon, as interest in near-death experiences has spiked in many circles. The phenomenon could entail top 10 strategies for coping with existential questions, or it might remain uncharted waters, waiting to be explored as the human journey continues. Regardless, the story stands as living proof that what we consider final might be merely a threshold to a newly revealed dimension of insight. The idea that each person's consciousness can tap into a collective swirl of energy, especially during moments near death, has enticed researchers and spiritual explorers for years. Viral hacks on social media might not begin to explain it, but personal anecdotes like this serve as powerful catalysts for deeper investigation. One might call it a step-by-step tutorial for rethinking reality, forcing us to wonder, if someone can remain aware after the body ceases to function, then what else is possible? The comforting thought for many is that separation is not absolute. Indeed, this story resonates with the question, how can we better integrate these wondrous accounts into our everyday approach to life, even if they defy normal logic? From a broader perspective, the rookie's determination was similarly eye-opening. He faced scorn from colleagues who were sure the patient was gone. Yet with the alarm of the defibrillator wailing, he overcame the criticism and pressed on. This moment underscores the power of stepping beyond conventional boundaries, especially when a quiet but mighty voice insists that a miracle is at hand. This is the ultimate guide to trusting one's gut amid swirling doubt. Sometimes, defying standard procedures can yield astonishing outcomes. Successful or not, it's a potent demonstration of how instinct can shatter the barrier between death and life. Those intimately familiar with near-death phenomena might see parallels in stories from various cultures, each replete with unique details but echoing the same themes. Many accounts mention light, intangible realms, and an expanded sense of perception. Here, the specifics included not initially recognizing one's own body, reading the thoughts of others, and watching from above as paramedics scrambled to attend to a presumed corpse. In many ways, this is a behind-the-scenes drama filled with suspense that outstrips any scripted scene. It's a real-life demonstration of extraordinary experiences that keep pushing the boundaries of skepticism. For anyone reading or listening, there's a natural inclination to wonder if there's a how-to approach to readiness for such an event. Some might interpret it as maintaining an open heart and mind, being a vessel for intuition if it's ever needed. Others could see it as a tutorial in caution, knowing that exploring brand new health supplements can carry serious risks. The tension between curiosity and caution is part of the larger story, reminding us that while exploring new horizons can be exciting, it's best to check the safety thoroughly. Meanwhile, no matter how well one prepares, unforeseen events can still arise. That's where the intangible voice or gut feeling might play a life-saving role. Medical staff often rely on best practices hammered into them through rigorous training. Everything from the ratio of chest compressions to breath intubation is taught to near perfection. Yet, the tragic possibility remains that a slightly different symptom might confound even the most skillful caretaker. That's why the persistent instincts of a rookie who did not want to accept official pronouncements became the impetus for an unthinkable turnaround. In this instance, the paramedic's fresh perspective and refusal to abide by the static label "fully deceased" paved the way for a miracle. Perhaps this is a reminder that how you stay open to subtle cues might be included in future top 10 strategies for modern paramedics. From the vantage of medical professionals, the scenario remains startling. The individual was cold and displayed physical signs consistent with death, yet somehow, the spark of life lingered. This phenomenon might not have a neat explanation, but it hints at the possibility that "it's never too late" can occasionally be more than a motivational slogan. On the spiritual side, it draws us into the realm of exploring whether consciousness can remain partially tethered, waiting for a critical external catalyst. The synergy between the intangible voice and the rookie's unshakable conviction might almost be described as an ultimate guide to bridging science and faith in a crisis. In the days and weeks that followed, the rescued individual undoubtedly faced a mountain of reflections. They had glimpsed a boundary that few pass and return to describe. They had seen a behind-the-scenes dimension where their senses were heightened to everyone else's thoughts and emotions, as though they were traveling outside a physical shell. Detailing that intangible journey would fill hours of conversation. Some impressions might baffle the mind, while others might resonate with watchers who suspect we are more than just physical forms. This moment in time was not just a random event, it became a pivotal turning point, reshuffling the person's entire worldview. Looking back, the rescue was also a how-to demonstration in perseverance. From the perspective of the paramedic, it showed that sometimes personal resolve stands as the final line between life and death. The environment in that ambulance quickly morphed into a tutorial in defying convention, as if a hidden boss level in a game about survival was unlocked. There were no disclaimers, and the greatest risk was an official reprimand or termination. However, the call to action was stronger than any fear of punishment. The medic's story is a trending now example of how an ordinary person with unshaken faith can rewrite the course of fate. Not everyone will experience a dramatic moment like this. Nevertheless, the broader takeaway might be the importance of balancing logical training with the powerful signals of intuition. This account is not just for those curious about near-death experiences. It serves as a universal pointer toward exploring the boundaries of reason. Perhaps that quiet voice can appear in other high-stakes scenarios, guiding individuals to discover easy methods for extraordinary breakthroughs. Or maybe the voice is a phenomenon we cannot rationalize fully, existing beyond the scope of standard sensory data. One cannot help but wonder if, in future generations, more people will share similar stories, like a tidal wave of personal narratives illuminating hidden corners of human potential. In that sense, the top 10 strategies for decoding near-death experiences could include practicing mindfulness, being receptive to voices that defy normal hearing, or simply acknowledging that mysteries abound in existence. The internet fosters rapid sharing of these personal accounts, turning them into viral hacks that fuel curiosity and debate. We find ourselves asking, could I be the next one to hear that elusive voice? At the heart of this entire story is the near-miraculous bridging of soul and body, orchestrated by a paramedic who felt compelled to keep going after standard procedures had ended. The renewed heartbeat was a testament to the synergy of unrelenting determination and whatever intangible forces hovered near that day. Another question arises: how might one replicate such readiness in daily life? Could it be that remaining open to spontaneous inspiration is an easy method for harnessing hidden capabilities? Or is it something more elusive, a gift that arises unexpectedly? While no official how-to or tutorial can promise to replicate a near-death encounter or the luminous interventions described, stories like this point to a deeper wellspring of human experience. They encourage reflection, fostering a behind-the-scenes look at what might lie beyond conventional medicine or accepted spiritual beliefs. At times, these accounts appear to unify science, faith, and the intangible, weaving them into a tapestry that defies neat categorization. Skeptics might attempt to pinpoint biological events, while spiritual thinkers highlight the ephemeral. Yet there is no single vantage point that can capture every nuance. The narrative stands as a powerful personal reflection on the unlimited potential hidden within human consciousness. In the end, the one who tumbled onto a restroom floor in that small restaurant was granted a second chance. They felt the brush of genuine mortality, recognized a realm where thoughts and emotions reverberate, and re-entered the living world with an entirely new perspective. It was more than a dramatic close call, it was a transformation. Those unexplainable minutes in the dark reshaped their understanding of reality. Amid the excitement of returning, questions naturally sprang forth. Each day following the experience might have felt like a gift, an invitation to share a message of hope, or to remind others that sometimes final does not mean forever. Anyone seeking a step-by-step breakdown of how the rescue played out could list the chain of medical interventions, culminating in that final shock that restored the heartbeat. But there was another intangible side, the golden halo around the rookie medic's torso, the voice prompting him to defy normal measures, and the cosmic shock that bridged the observer's vantage and their physical shell. Such details defy conventional explanation, yet they form the beating heart of this story. In that sense, it becomes an ultimate guide for those who wish to explore the edges of human potential, be it in times of crisis or across the broad landscape of daily life. Reflecting on the entire sequence, a person might label it a tutorial in faith and perseverance. Others might see it as a how-to illustration of bridging a chasm that many believe to be impassable, turning an official death pronouncement into a renewed pulse. Regardless of one's viewpoint, the magnitude of the experience leaves a glowing trail of questions that beckon the curious. Are we more powerful or mysterious than we realize? What lessons might we glean from glimpsing a realm where time, space, and awareness collide in unimaginable ways? Though science and philosophy may provide partial insights, they can only circle around the core. Direct experience transforms speculation into hard-hitting reality. In telling this story, we remember the restaurant manager who dialed for help, the friend who survived without complication, the other customers who worried about a locked door, the experienced medics who believed there was nothing to be done, and the improbable hero who refused to let protocol overshadow possibility more. Each participant contributed a piece of the puzzle, whether through fear, logic, or trust in a remarkable call to action. Because it happened so swiftly, it might be categorized as an intense moment that felt both eternal and fleeting. It was a supercharged scenario where life and afterlife converged. The body bag became a place of resurrection rather than a resting place for the departed. That's not a typical everyday scene, but perhaps it's a trending now topic among those intrigued by near-death recollections. People search for the best practices to glean from such events, the viral hacks to protect themselves or loved ones, the easy methods to remain open-minded, and the top 10 strategies to reconcile scientific skepticism with stories that defy conventional limitations. Most important, the dramatic rescue in the ambulance suggests that sometimes the lines between the medical realm and the spiritual realm become blurred. The synergy of external diligence and internal guidance can weave together in astonishing ways, forging a path forward when all seems lost. Perhaps one day, the full complexity of these experiences will be mapped out, forming a universal tutorial for bridging body and soul. Until then, we rely on individual accounts that remind us of the grandeur of existence and the quiet knowledge that life can endure beyond all reason. If you imagine this account unfolding as a step-by-step demonstration, the critical pivot is the moment when intangible communication echoes, "Not gone, not gone." That short but powerful phrase catalyzed a wave of hope that overcame every argument. It might be recognized as an example of best practices for those truly listening to subtle signals, whether in critical care or in other life pursuits. The young medic's defiance shows that occasionally, ignoring naysayers is the only route to a new reality. Who can say how many times a single person's unwavering faith has changed the course of fate? Summarizing the entire journey from start to finish evokes wonder. A playful desire to experiment with a new supplement triggered a chain of events that left one friend in the hospital and the other dancing on the border of mortality. The tension of discovering that body in the restroom, the swirl of paramedics in the ambulance, and the extraordinary visual of a glowing heart combined to produce an unforgettable tapestry of suspense, hope, and revelation. One might label it a how-to in crossing the threshold, or a tutorial in returning from the brink, but nothing can replicate those moments for anyone who hasn't walked that path personally. Over time, stories like this become emblematic. They encourage heightened awareness, urging individuals to consider the mysteries of life. Some might glean an ultimate guide for living with gratitude. Others might compete to apply top 10 strategies for personal development, harnessing this example as a testament to resilience. Everyone interprets it in their own way, but the essence remains. There is more to the human story than the tangible facts we can measure. Sometimes, intangible forces act upon us, forging unexpected outcomes that defy the finality of what we believe we know. And thus, the account remains an ever-relevant and dramatic illustration of survival against impossible odds. The observer that once felt detached and drifting is now reintegrated, living proof that a sliver of hope can be found, even in a sealed body bag. It's understandable that anyone absorbing this narrative might be propelled to reflect on their own convictions. Is there a hidden dimension to reality, or was this all a rare quirk of biology? Perhaps it's both. Perhaps it's the trending now phenomenon that merges science and spirituality in a single tapestry. Ultimately, each listener or reader must decide what these events signify. Yet, from a purely human angle, it's a story about compassion and bravery. Whether guided by supernatural influence or an indefinable calling, one person's conviction revived another person's life. Beyond medical jargon, that is the simple beauty here. A combination of skill, urgency, and sheer audacity overcame finality. The next time you consider stepping outside your comfort zone, you might recall this inspirational scene as an unusual but powerful impetus. History is filled with small, momentous acts that shaped improbable outcomes. This too belongs in that realm of the extraordinary. Just like that, what began as an innocent interest in a trendy new supplement spiraled into a cosmic brush with death, and it ended with second chances, renewed purpose, and a vantage point that transcended ordinary limits more. Along the way, it showcased a behind-the-scenes dimension constructed of intangible connections and unstoppable resolve. Maybe that's the real lesson, the invisible web of possibility that surrounds us, waiting for a confident spark to ignite it. A step-by-step approach to understanding that realm might never fully exist, but glimpses of it remain scattered among those who return with stories of the unexplainable. From the swirling confusion in a small restroom to the hush of an ambulance ride, from the clang of emergency room doors to the gentle beep of a heart monitor, each subsequent chapter of this tale remains drenched in a sense of awe. That sense is contagious. It resonates with anyone who has ever scraped the boundary of existence and returned with something precious. It also resonates with those for whom curiosity about life's mysteries runs deep. This story stands as a testament to the possibility that all is not as it seems, and that here in our everyday world, shocking wonders can unfold without warning, bridging life and beyond in one unforgettable second. And in that final moment, as the hospital staff stabilized the once lifeless figure, the swirling intangible energies began to soften. The observer recognized their own body as it seized and vomited, reorienting to the physical plane so violently that every nerve felt raw. The heroic medic who refused to surrender had completed his mission. The unknown force that echoed its directive through him receded into the hush of the ordinary. Perhaps it still lingers everywhere, waiting for the next critical moment. But for now, one life had been reeled back from elusive shadows, and that single success held immeasurable weight. In the aftermath, the restored individual walked a road of discovery that offered countless chances to reflect. Was that truly me up there, or was it just some hallucination? Personal convictions often formed and reformed around each fresh recollection. The deep awareness of other people's sparks of thought, the intangible borders between worlds, the glow surrounding a newly trained paramedic, it felt simultaneously impossible and undeniably real. They learned that accepting it as truth was an ongoing journey, not a simple conclusion. And at times, that acceptance provided a beacon of hope or a sense of renewed purpose to continue exploring what life truly entails. So, take from this dramatic retelling whatever resonates: a how-to on trusting your instincts under pressure, a tutorial on humility, recognizing that ordinary knowledge can fail under extraordinary circumstances, a behind-the-scenes look at the synergy between science and spirit, a demonstration of best practices for heroic defiance when conventional wisdom says all is lost. Or perhaps it's a quiet reminder that love, faith, and unseen forces forever weave through existence, bridging souls in ways logic cannot easily define. However you interpret it, the story stands unwavering, a real-life event pulsing with grand significance and timeless wonder.